My sister-in-law kept wiping her phone clean every night. Yesterday, I finally figured out why. I had just hit rock bottom when my sister-in-law Karina offered to move in with me. My ex-fiancé Poppy had literally vanished from my life 3 days ago. She left me at the altar while 7 months pregnant with our second child. I couldn't comprehend it. All her things were still at our house. The night before the wedding, we stayed up talking about our dreams coming true. But now she'd deleted her number, her socials, and seemingly bought a one-way ticket across the world. That last part is the story Karina told me anyway. One of the first things she did at my door was pull up her phone and show me a screenshot of a thread between her and Poppy. In it, Poppy said she's having wedding anxiety and admitted to having an online affair with some guy in Germany that she's leaving for. Before I could even react to what was on the screen, Karina suggested moving in to help with bills. I really didn't want her to, but my salary wasn't enough to cover rent, and I didn't have enough money for someone to watch my son if I needed it. And so, I said yes. Karina practically squealed and jumped up, looking like she was about to plant a kiss on my cheek before restraining herself. I was too busy being depressed and trying to reach out to Poppy for the first few weeks to really notice anything. But then around the 3-week mark of Karina moving in, I started getting suspicious. Karina came back from bikini shopping and asked if I wanted her to show me the haul. When I said no, she asked if I was sure because she had been working out recently. I had to excuse myself to the bathroom to second guess if this was really happening. I knew Karina had always had a flirty personality, as she described it, so I put it down to just that and bad room reading. Well, I quickly found out it was far from that, because around 6 weeks after she moved in, I came home from grocery shopping to find her holding my baby. Say mama. Come on, baby. Say mama. I stood there frozen. I had to take out my eyeballs and rub them like Mr. Krabs to verify if I was seeing this right, and when I realized I was, I stormed over and gently took him from her. She looked at me like I'd just killed her puppy. She went to protest, but I cut her off and sternly told her that she wasn't the mother and to not act like it. That's when she looked at me with these innocent eyes and told me that the baby just wanted its mother, and her motherly instinct couldn't stand to see him hurting. That was the night I officially became suspicious enough to look for evidence. I didn't know what I was looking for, but Karina had done enough to make me question if she had ulterior motives. So I grabbed her phone while she slept, held it against her face to unlock it, combed through it, and got nothing. That was actually the scariest part. You see, the entire phone was completely empty. No texts, no call history, nothing. She had wiped it clean. I remember feeling this pit in my stomach. I knew I had to do something. I started researching if phone recovery was possible or even a thing, but before I could really gather anything, the daycare incident happened. I went to pick my son up, and when his teacher saw me, she hurried over and asked if I was sure I wanted the forms changed. According to her, Karina had showed up earlier today asking to change our son's form to list herself as his biological mother. I went pale. I told her to not touch those forms before getting my son and driving home. The moment I saw Karina, I exploded on her. I asked her what kind of sick person tries to claim they're the mother when they're not. Every part of me wanted to accuse her of doing something to Poppy, but I withheld that. The fact I was onto her was my secret. Karina, unsurprisingly, instantly jumped into manipulation mode. She said I'd missed 3 pickups last week. Pickups she said she would handle. And because of that, the daycare called her, another lie, daycare doesn't have her number, and told her they'd call CPS if the child wasn't being picked up. I remember just staring at her, wondering what kind of liar I've let into my home. I decided to bait her a little and asked her to show me the call she received from the school. And because she'd been wiping her phone clean every night, her face went like a deer in headlights. She accused me of not believing her and being a paranoid psycho who's now convinced everyone is out to harm him because Poppy gave me trust issues. Fast forward one more day. I came home after grocery shopping, and the second I pulled in, I smelled smoke coming from the backyard. I gave my son a bottle before rushing out back, and what I saw confirmed to me just how insane Karina was. She was standing over a burning metal trash can, tossing Poppy's belongings into the fire. Photos, jewelry, mementos I gifted for anniversaries, even pictures of Poppy and our son. She was smiling like a giddy schoolgirl doing it, and all when I saw her, I couldn't hold it in. I grabbed a gallon jug of ice-cold water and rushed towards her and dumped it. It went everywhere. It put the fire out, soaking the can, the belongings, and even her from head to toe. She let out this high-pitched scream, and when I angrily asked her what was wrong with her, she told me she's realized that because I'll never let go of Poppy myself, naturally, it's up to her to fully get rid of her. That was it. I told her to get out of my house. I figured I'd find out whatever she did to Poppy somehow, but I couldn't stand being near Karina for another second. Unfortunately, it wasn't so simple. If you kick me out, I'll go to the cops and say you hit me. I remember laughing at her, thinking she was joking, until she pulled out her phone and actually dialed 911. My face dropped. Hello, 911, I need help. My brother-in-law is here and he's okay, I mouthed, cutting her off. She hung up the phone and looked at me with the biggest smirk on her face. I'm not going anywhere, sweetie. I lunged for Karina's phone, but she'd already dialed 911 again. Help! He's attacking me! She screamed into the receiver before immediately hanging up. My blood ran cold. She knew exactly what she was doing. Police would arrive within minutes now. Tick-tock, Karina smirked, water still dripping from her hair. About 6 minutes until they arrest you for domestic violence. Unless you want to talk about giving me permanent custody. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. This wasn't spontaneous. She'd done this before, or at least planned it meticulously. I grabbed my son from his high chair and rushed for my car keys, but Karina moved faster, blocking the door. Kidnapping too? Even better. She pulled out her phone again. I already texted Marcus you were having a breakdown. My brother, Marcus. Of course she'd thought of everything. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. That's when it clicked. She must have called them earlier, waiting for the perfect moment to create this scene. I looked at my son in my arms, then at Karina's triumphant face. The sirens were maybe 2 minutes away now. Making the hardest decision of my life, I handed my baby to her and bolted out the back door just as police cruisers pulled into my driveway. From my neighbor's yard, I watched through the fence slats as 2 officers approached Karina. She'd transformed completely. Gone was the smirk, replaced by tears and trembling. She showed them the burned belongings in the trash can, clutching my son while gesturing wildly at the house. Even from here, I could see her performance working. The officer's body language shifted from routine response to protective concern. My phone buzzed frantically. finally. Marcus. Cops at your house? Karina says you threatened her. Where are you? Then another. She says you've been spiraling since Poppy left. Dude, what's going on? And another. Just stay calm. I'm coming over. I needed my laptop. All my documentation about Karina's behavior was on there. Screenshots I'd managed to take before she wiped her phone. Notes about the daycare incident. But as I circled back toward the house, I saw Karina hand something to one of the officers. My laptop bag. She was telling them something, pointing at it, then at the house. The officer nodded, taking notes. She'd given them my evidence as proof of my obsessive behavior. Of course she had. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Stop running. Check the attic. She doesn't know about the camera. Someone who knows the truth. My hands shook as I read it twice. The attic. The nanny cam we'd installed when Poppy was pregnant with our first. We'd forgotten about it after moving the nursery downstairs. The police were wrapping up their questioning. One officer stayed with Karina while the other walked the perimeter of the property. I waited until they both returned to their vehicles, watching Karina wave goodbye from the porch, still playing the terrified victim. The moment their taillights disappeared, she pulled out her phone. I could see her scrolling, typing rapidly. Within minutes, a locksmith van pulled up. She was already changing the locks. I had one chance. The garage had an access panel to the attic that Poppy and I had used for storage. While Karina directed the locksmith at the front door, I slipped into the garage through the side entrance we rarely locked. The attic was stifling, full of baby clothes Poppy had carefully folded for our second child. My throat tightened seeing them. Focus. The nanny cam was tucked in the corner, its red light blinking weakly. Battery almost dead. I grabbed it, hands trembling as I connected it to my phone. Please have something, please. The video loaded, fast-forwarding through weeks of footage until, there, the night Poppy disappeared. 3:17 a.m. The grainy footage showed our bedroom door opening, Karina leading Poppy out, Poppy's face tear-stained, shoulders shaking. Karina had her arm around her, mouth moving constantly. I maxed the volume but could only catch fragments. Only way to keep the baby safe from him. The video cut to black, battery dead, but I had it. Proof that Karina had manipulated Poppy into leaving. The download finished just as I heard footsteps below. Karina's voice carried up. Just need to grab something from the garage. I was trapped. The locksmith was still working on the front door. Karina entered directly below me, rummaging through boxes. My phone vibrated. I fumbled to silence it, but too late. Hello? Karina called out. Is someone there? I held my breath, sweat dripping onto the dusty floorboards. She moved more boxes, then stopped directly under the access panel. The ladder was still extended from when I'd climbed up. Interesting, she muttered. Her footsteps retreated. I heard the garage door close, then her voice from outside. He's stalking us. I just caught him in my garage. Call 911. The neighbor's voice responded, concerned and urgent. More sirens in the distance. I scrambled through the attic to the opposite end, where it connected to my neighbor's garage through a gap in the insulation. Poppy and I had discovered it during a renovation project. I squeezed through, dropping into their garage just as police sirens filled the air again. Bursting out of their garage, I ran for my car, but orange boots clamped both rear wheels. A GPS tracker blinked on my windshield. In the 2 hours since the police left, Karina had filed an emergency restraining order. My phone rang. Sarah, Poppy's best friend. Karina just left my house, Sarah said, breathless. She said Poppy's been texting her about you being dangerous. She showed me screenshots. Sarah, those can't be real. They have today's timestamp, pictures of bruises, messages about you threatening her if she didn't marry you. If Poppy was texting, she was alive. Sarah, I need to see those messages. I'm coming over. You can't. Karina said there's a restraining order. She'll call the cops if she sees you near me. Then meet me somewhere. Please. Something's not right about those texts. Sarah hesitated. The park on Elm. 10 minutes. I ran. My car was useless now. An Uber would leave a digital trail. The park was 12 blocks away. By the time I arrived, gasping for breath, Sarah was already there, phone in hand. Look at these, she said, showing me screenshot after screenshot. Poppy, claiming I'd threatened to kill her if she didn't marry me. Describing violent episodes that never happened. Photos of bruises on arms I'd never touched. But something was off. The writing style was wrong. Too formal. Poppy never used semicolons in texts, but these messages were full of them. Sarah, look at this one. I pointed to a message about being afraid to eat. She says she's allergic to strawberries. Poppy loves strawberries. We had them at every anniversary dinner. Sarah's eyes widened. She scrolled back through the messages, really reading them now. Oh my god. She mentions your dog Bruno. You don't have a dog. Karina's making mistakes. She's pretending to be Poppy. Before Sarah could respond, Marcus's car screeched into the parking lot. 2 police cruisers followed. Dude, you need help, Marcus said, approaching slowly like I was a wild animal. Behind him, officers kept their hands near their weapons. Karina showed me your search history. Hiring hitmen? Private investigators? What the hell? Marcus, listen. No, you listen. You're scaring everyone. Karina's trying to help and you're stalking her, breaking into the house. I pulled out my phone, showing him the nanny cam footage. His face went pale watching Karina lead a crying Poppy out of our bedroom at 3 a.m. This is from the night Poppy disappeared, I said. Karina manipulated her into leaving. Marcus stared at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. The officers moved closer. Sir, we need you to come with us, one said. Marcus, please. You know me. You know I'd never hurt Poppy. My brother's hand shook as he reached for my phone. Let me hold on to this, for safekeeping. The officers cuffed me, but gently. Marcus pocketed my phone with the evidence. As they guided me to the cruiser, I spotted a familiar car at the red light. Poppy's mother's hit-up Honda, but the driver wore a surgical mask and sunglasses, turning away when I looked. At the station, they processed me efficiently. The lawyer they assigned looked exhausted, shuffling papers as she explained my situation. Ms. Karina Rodriguez has filed for emergency custody of your son, she said. The restraining order gives her temporary possession of the house pending investigation. You're not to come within 500 feet of her, the child, or the residence. She's not even related to him. She claims you abandoned the child after threatening her. Combined with the mother's disappearance and your behavior today, she shrugged. Judge signed off on it. You'll get a hearing in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Karina would have 2 weeks alone with my son, in my house, with no one watching. There's more, the lawyer continued. She's filed a report about you stalking her at a friend's house, breaking into her garage, and she provided evidence of obsessive behavior. Apparently you've been documenting her every move? I laughed bitterly. Of course my evidence became her weapon. However, the lawyer said, your brother posted requested bail. You're free to go, but remember, violate that restraining order and you'll be right back here. Marcus waited outside, my phone in his hand. I sent the video to your lawyer, he said quietly, and made copies. Whatever's happening, we'll figure it out. You believe me? I don't know what to believe, but that video, Karina definitely lied about Poppy leaving for Germany, so what else is she lying about? As we walked to his car, my phone buzzed. The unknown number again. Playground, now. She's moving Poppy tonight. H. Marcus's car hadn't even stopped moving when I jumped out at the playground. The swings creaked in the evening wind, shadows stretching across the empty park. A woman emerged from behind the jungle gym, mid-40s, professional blazer despite the late hour. Helena Morrison, she said, extending her hand. I run the women's shelter on Maple Street. My heart hammered. You know where Poppy is? Karina brought her to us 2 months ago. Said you were violent, that Poppy needed protection. Helena's expression hardened. But things aren't adding up. Poppy asked to call her mother yesterday. Karina said it wasn't safe yet. That's when I started questioning everything. 2 months. Poppy had been 10 minutes away this entire time, believing I was dangerous. My legs nearly gave out. She's still pregnant? I managed. Very. Due any day now. Helena glanced around nervously. I can't tell you the exact location, legal and ethical boundaries, but Karina always stops at the CVS on 3rd before visiting. Buys prenatal vitamins, usually around 7 p.m. That's in 20 minutes. I didn't tell you that. Helena turned to leave, then paused. Poppy's been asking questions. The story Karina tells keeps changing. Cracks are showing. She disappeared into the darkness, leaving me standing there with Marcus. My brother grabbed my arm as I started toward 3rd Street. You can't go near Karina. The restraining order. I'm not going near her, just observing from a distance. Marcus sighed, but drove me anyway. We parked across from the CVS, engine off, watching. At 7:03, Karina's silver sedan pulled up. She emerged, glancing around before entering the store. 5 minutes later, she exited with a small bag. We followed at a distance, 3 cars between us. She drove carefully, signaling every turn, until she pulled up to a converted Victorian house. No signs, just a normal residential property, but I recognized it now, the kind of unmarked shelter that blended into the neighborhood. Karina walked to the front door and knocked in a pattern. 3 quick, 2 slow. The door opened, and she slipped inside. I was out of the car before Marcus could stop me, creeping along the sidewalk opposite the house. Through a second-floor window, I saw movement. A silhouette passed by, pregnant, moving with that distinctive waddle I knew so well, the way Poppy always placed her hand on her lower back. My phone vibrated. Marcus, get back here now! Cops driving by. I retreated to the car just as a patrol vehicle turned the corner. We drove away in silence, but I'd seen enough. Poppy was there, alive, pregnant, hidden. Back at Marcus's apartment, I paced while he made calls. His lawyer friend confirmed what we already knew. Approaching the shelter would violate the restraining order and destroy any legal case. The system that should protect victims was now shielding the perpetrator. There has to be another way, I said. Marcus's phone rang. He answered, his face growing increasingly concerned. They want me at the station. Karina reported the phone stolen, the one with your evidence. But you made copies. Digital copies they can claim are doctored. They want the original. He grabbed his keys. Stay here. Don't do anything stupid. The moment he left, I called Sarah. I need your help. After what happened at the park, the police questioned me for an hour. Poppy's at a women's shelter on Maple. She thinks I'm dangerous because Karina's been feeding her lies. Someone needs to tell her the truth. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. What do you need me to do? Volunteer at the shelter. Say you're escaping an abusive relationship. Get inside. Find Poppy. Show her the truth. That's insane. Please. She's about to give birth thinking I'm a monster. Our son is with a woman who's trying to steal our family. Another pause. Fine. But if I get arrested, I'm blaming you. The next morning, Sarah texted, I'm in. Orientation for new residents at 10. I spent the day at Marcus's, checking my phone obsessively. He'd been released after questioning, but without his phone. The police were investigating the video evidence, which meant Karina had more time to solidify her position. At 2 p.m., Sarah finally texted, found her. Oh God, she looks terrified. They told her you hurt the baby. My hands shook. Karina had convinced Poppy I'd hurt our son. No wonder she'd hidden. Showing her videos of him from yesterday. Sarah's next text read, she's crying, realizes she's been lied to, then nothing for an hour. I was climbing the walls when the phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Oh God, I'm so sorry. Poppy's voice, broken and sobbing. She said she saw you shake him. Said you'd kill us both if I didn't hide. I'm so sorry. Poppy, where are you? I'll come get you. I can't leave. They won't let me without Karina's permission. She's my advocate. The rules. Her voice cracked. I'm trapped. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, rage building. Karina had imprisoned Poppy using the very system meant to protect her. Sarah burst through Marcus's door an hour later, face flushed. We faked a pregnancy complication. Ambulance is taking her to General Hospital. Karina doesn't know yet. I was already running for the door. Marcus tried to stop me, but I shoved past him. Nothing would keep me from Poppy now. At the hospital, I found her in the maternity ward, Sarah standing guard. The moment Poppy saw me, she broke down completely. The baby's coming, she gasped between contractions. I thought I'd have to do this alone, thinking you hated us. I held her hand as she labored, both of us crying. Between contractions, she told me everything. How Karina had appeared that night, saying she'd witnessed me having a breakdown. How she'd shown Poppy fake evidence, photos of bruises, threatening messages, a video of someone shaking a baby that was too blurry to identify. How she'd driven Poppy to the shelter, promising to keep our son safe while Poppy hid. She visited every day at first, Poppy panted. Showed me pictures of him, said you were getting worse, that police were involved. Then the visits got less frequent. She started making excuses why I couldn't call my mom or friends. A contraction hit, cutting off her words. The nurse checked her progress. Almost time to push. That's when my phone exploded with texts. Marcus, Karina knows Poppy's gone. She's running. Then, she took your son. Her car's gone. I looked at Poppy, deep in labor, then at my phone. My son was with a delusional woman who'd just lost her carefully constructed fantasy, but Poppy was about to deliver our daughter. Go, Poppy gasped. Find him. Sarah's here with me. I kissed her forehead and ran. In the parking lot, I called Marcus. Where is she? Police issued an alert. Her car was spotted heading north on I-95. I drove like a madman, calling everyone. The police, the lawyer, even Helena. Finally, Helena remembered something crucial. She mentioned an aunt with property up north. Said she used to spend summers there as a kid. The police dispatcher came back on the line. Vehicle spotted at a gas station off exit 42. Subject purchased purchased baby supplies and asked about cabin rentals. Exit 42 was 30 miles away. I pushed the speedometer past 90, praying I wouldn't get pulled over. My phone rang. Poppy. "It's a girl," she sobbed. "Perfect and healthy. Please find her brother." The gas station clerk remembered Karina clearly. Pretty woman with a baby. Asked about the Riverside cabins. Said she needed somewhere quiet for a few days. Riverside cabins was another 10 miles down a dirt road. I called the police with the location, but they warned me to wait for backup. Like hell I would. The cabin office was closed, but an old man sitting outside pointed to the last cabin. Lady paid cash for a week. Said she needed peace and quiet with her baby. I parked down the road and approached on foot. Through the window, I could see Karina holding my son, rocking him gently. She was talking to him, her voice carrying through the thin walls. "Daddy's not coming back," she cooed. "It's just you and Mama now. We'll be so happy together." My son started crying, that specific hungry cry I knew so well. Karina tried to soothe him, but he only cried harder. She was getting frustrated, her movements less gentle. "Please stop crying," she begged. "Mama's here. You don't need them anymore." But he kept wailing, reaching toward the window where I stood. Somehow, he knew I was there. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Karina's head snapped up, panic flooding her face. She clutched my son tighter, backing away from the window. "No," she whispered. "They can't take you. You're mine now." The sirens grew louder. I saw the moment Karina's delusion fully cracked. Her face crumpled, tears streaming down. She looked at my son, really looked at him, and saw the truth. He wasn't hers. He never had been. The police surrounded the cabin, officers taking positions. A negotiator arrived, trying to establish contact, but I couldn't wait. My son was in there with a woman whose fantasy was collapsing. I stepped into view of the window. Karina saw me, her eyes wild, but my son saw me too. His cries changed to excited babbling, arms reaching desperately toward me. "He knows you," Karina whispered, staring at the baby's reaction. Reality was forcing its way through her delusion. I held up my phone, showing her a video Sarah had sent. Poppy in the hospital bed, holding our newborn daughter. "She needs her son," I called out. "Please, Karina, let him meet his sister." Karina stared at the video, at the baby girl who looked so much like the boy in her arms. Her hands shook as my son continued reaching for me, his cries now clearly calling for Dada. Her voice broke completely. "I just wanted to be somebody's mother." The negotiator was talking, but Karina wasn't listening to him. She was watching my son strain toward me, hearing him call for his father. The fantasy she'd built was crumbling with each cry. She walked slowly to the door. The police tensed, weapons ready but not raised. The door opened, and Karina stepped out, my son still in her arms. "I'm sorry," she whispered, handing him to me. "I lost my baby 2 years ago. I wanted what you had." The police moved in as I clutched my son, both of us crying. He buried his face in my neck, little hands gripping my shirt like he'd never let go. Karina didn't resist as they cuffed her body limp with defeat. "Is Poppy okay?" she asked as they led her away. "The baby? They're perfect," I said. She nodded, tears still falling. "Good, that's good." I drove to the hospital with my son, breaking every speed limit. Marcus met us in the lobby, immediately taking photos to document that the baby was safe and unharmed, evidence for the legal battles ahead. In the maternity room, Poppy was holding our daughter, Sarah, beside her. The moment she saw our son, she broke down completely. I placed him gently on the bed beside her, and he immediately cuddled against her, one tiny hand reaching to touch his sister. "My babies," Poppy whispered. "Both of them." We stayed like that for hours, our family of 4 together for the first time. Poppy's parents arrived, then mine, everyone crying and apologizing for doubting me. The story came out in pieces, how Karina had orchestrated everything, playing on everyone's fears and assumptions. The prosecutor visited that evening. Karina was being charged with kidnapping, false imprisonment, and fraud, but she was also being evaluated, her lawyer already pushing for psychiatric treatment instead of prison. "She's sick," the prosecutor said. The delusion was complete. She genuinely believed she was protecting the children. I thought about her final moments in the cabin, the way reality had crashed through her fantasy. She was sick, but she'd also stolen months of our lives, traumatized our family, nearly destroyed everything. The next morning brought chaos. Karina's psychiatric evaluation revealed severe delusional disorder triggered by a miscarriage 2 years prior. She'd fixated on our family as a replacement for what she'd lost. The prosecutor explained this while I sat in the hospital cafeteria, exhausted from sleeping in a chair between Poppy and our son's beds. "She's facing kidnapping, false imprisonment, and fraud charges," he said. 20 years minimum, but her lawyer's pushing for psychiatric treatment instead of prison. I watched my son play with a plastic spoon, completely unaware of the trauma he'd endured. He kept looking around for Kina, the only caregiver he'd known for 2 months. It broke my heart every time. Poppy struggled to leave the hospital room. 2 months of psychological manipulation had left deep scars. She'd jump at footsteps in the hallway, convinced Karina would appear and take our daughter. The nurses had to reassure her constantly that security was watching, that no one could enter without permission. We finally went home 3 days later, but home didn't feel safe anymore. Karina had lived there, touched everything, changed things. Poppy couldn't sleep in our bedroom. That's where Karina had woken her that night, convinced her I was dangerous. We set up camp in the living room, all 4 of us together, afraid to separate. The legal proceedings moved quickly. Karina's lawyer pushed for a competency hearing, arguing she couldn't stand trial in her current state. During a video conference with our lawyer, we learned disturbing details. Karina had been planning this for months, maybe longer. She'd researched custody laws, domestic violence procedures, how shelters operated. The delusion was complete, but the execution had been methodical. "We need to decide," our lawyer said. "Do you support psychiatric treatment or push for prison?" Poppy and I looked at each other. This woman had stolen months of our lives, traumatized our family, nearly destroyed us, but she was also clearly ill, driven by grief we couldn't imagine. "Both," Poppy said finally. "Prison with mandatory treatment. She needs help, but she also needs consequences." Our son's adjustment proved heartbreaking. He'd ask for Karina at bedtime, confused why his routine had changed. We showed him photos of us together before everything happened, trying to rebuild memories Karina had overwritten. Some nights he'd wake crying, reaching for someone who wasn't there. The prosecutor called 2 weeks later. Karina had agreed to plead guilty to avoid trial. The judge would decide between prison and psychiatric facility at sentencing. We'd have to appear, give victim impact statements. The thought made Poppy physically ill. Marcus became our rock during this time. He'd taken leave from work, helping us navigate the legal system while managing daily life. He'd hold the baby while Poppy showered, play with our son while I handled phone calls with lawyers. Without him, we would have drowned. Sarah stayed close too, visiting daily with groceries and emotional support. She'd been questioned extensively about her role in helping Poppy escape the shelter, but Helena had vouched for her, explaining the circumstances. No charges were filed, though Sarah said she still had nightmares about that day. 3 weeks after the cabin, we attended Karina's sentencing. She looked different, medicated, calmer, the wild desperation gone from her eyes. When she saw us enter the courtroom, she started crying silently. Poppy's victim impact statement was devastating. She described the terror of believing I was dangerous, the isolation of the shelter, the agony of thinking she'd have to raise our children alone. She talked about trust destroyed, safety shattered, the ongoing trauma our son faced. I spoke about watching my son call another woman mama, about being branded dangerous by the very systems meant to protect families, about the twisted irony of Karina using domestic violence resources to perpetrate her own abuse. When Karina spoke, her voice was barely audible. I lost my baby and lost my mind. I'm sorry I tried to steal yours. I know sorry isn't enough. I know I can't undo what I did. Please just take care of them. All of them. The judge sentenced her to 12 years with possibility of transfer to a psychiatric facility after 5, contingent on treatment compliance and behavior. A lifetime restraining order was issued protecting our entire family. Karina would never be allowed to contact us again. Leaving the courthouse, I felt hollow. Justice had been served, but it didn't erase what happened. Our son still asked for Karina. Poppy still couldn't sleep without checking the locks repeatedly. Our daughter, thankfully, would never remember any of this. We decided to move across town. Same jobs, same schools eventually, but a fresh start in a house without memories. The first night in the new place, Poppy finally slept through until morning. Small victories. I adjusted my work schedule to be home more, rebuilding my bond with our son. Those 2 months with Karina had confused him, but children are resilient. Within 3 months, he was calling for Dada again without hesitation, running to me when I came home. Poppy started therapy, working through the trauma of psychological imprisonment. Some days were harder than others. She'd have panic attacks thinking about how easily Karina had convinced her I was dangerous. The therapist explained how skilled manipulators exploit vulnerability, how Poppy's postpartum hormones and wedding stress had made her susceptible. Our families rallied around us. My parents, who'd initially believed Karina's lies, now helped with childcare and household tasks. Poppy's mother, who I'd spotted in that Honda during my arrest, admitted she'd been driving by trying to understand what was happening, too afraid to get involved directly. 6 months passed. Our son started preschool, his teachers unaware of our family's ordeal. He was just another happy kid learning to share and count. Our daughter grew chubby and content, smiling at everyone. Slowly, we found rhythms that felt normal. A letter arrived from Karina's treatment team. She was responding well to medication and therapy, accepting responsibility for her actions. They wanted us to know she was making progress, though they understood if we didn't want updates. We chose to receive them, not for her sake, but to know she was getting help. Poppy returned to work part-time, finding purpose beyond the trauma. I watched our children while she was gone, grateful for every mundane moment, diaper changes, feeding times, tantrums over toys. These ordinary challenges felt like gifts after nearly losing everything. One evening while making dinner, our son asked about the sad lady. That's how he'd started referring to Karina as memories faded. We kept our explanation simple. She was sick and confused, but doctors were helping her get better. He seemed satisfied, more interested in his dinosaur nuggets than complex adult problems. The 1-year anniversary of Poppy's disappearance approached. We marked it quietly, just the 4 of us at a park. Poppy pushed our son on the swings while I held our daughter. No one watching would guess what we'd survived. We looked like any other family enjoying a sunny afternoon. That night, after the kids were asleep, Poppy and I sat on our new porch. We didn't talk about Karina or the trial or the months of trauma. We discussed normal things, our son's upcoming birthday party, whether our daughter was teething, plans for a family vacation. The conversation felt revolutionary in its ordinariness. 2 years later, Poppy was pregnant again. This time, we had security cameras, strict pickup protocols at daycare, and a trusted circle who knew our history. We'd learned to be protective without being paranoid, cautious without letting fear rule our lives. News came that Karina had been transferred to a psychiatric facility, her progress in treatment remarkable. Her lawyer sent a letter she'd written, not to us, but about us. She'd shared our story in group therapy, warning other patients about how untreated mental illness could destroy lives. She understood why contact was forbidden, but wanted us to know she used our pain to help others avoid similar paths. We chose not to respond, but felt a strange relief. She was getting better, taking responsibility, using her experience constructively. It didn't undo the damage, but it meant something. Our third child, another son, was born without drama. Poppy's labor was calm. I was present for every moment, and our older children met their brother surrounded by family who'd learned to treasure such moments. The normalcy felt miraculous. 5 years after that terrible night, we took our first real vacation, a week at the beach. Our children built sandcastles and chased waves, blissfully unaware of how hard their parents had fought for these simple moments. Poppy and I watched them play, hands intertwined, scars healed but not forgotten. This simple domestic scene once seemed impossible. Now it's just Tuesday afternoon.